Hi everyone, John W. Quinn here. I'm the author of Someone Like Me, an unlikely story of challenge and triumph over cerebral palsy. I'm also a Fortune 500 motivational speaker. Well, Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day here in the United States is coming up quick, and just wanted to share some thoughts on it. There's 17 million people in the world with cerebral palsy, almost a million people in the U.S. with CP. I have cerebral palsy, although my cerebral palsy is very mild. I still have to think about every step that I take. And when I talk about cerebral palsy, which I do a lot, I'm often just educating people because there's so much just lack of awareness about cerebral palsy and what it is. A lot of people think that cerebral palsy is a disease. It is not. The way that I discuss cerebral palsy, the way that I explain it, is that cerebral palsy is like having a stroke as a baby and then having to deal with the effects of that stroke for the rest of your life. Every case of cerebral palsy is unique to that individual. That's very important. Many people that I talk to often think that cerebral palsy is progressive, that it gets worse as you get older. It does not. We all have aging issues, and we can talk about that. But, it's not like MS, and a lot of people believe that it is. It is not. So what you have as cerebral palsy, as a youngster, as a baby, as an infant, you're going to deal with that for the rest of your life. You can get better through hard work and physical therapy and those kind of things. I'm a case in point with that. I really couldn't walk very well until I was about 4 years old. Had to wear special orthopedic shoes, and I called them my Frankenstein boots. But physical therapy has gone a long ways since the early 70s when I was a kid. I'm going to be 60 next month. So there's a lot of great things that are happening in the world of physical therapy. There's also some advancements in science and technology. I see the use of exoskeletons and some things, computerized aids and things like that are really beneficial to people with cerebral palsy. So there is hope about it. I think it's very important that we share our stories, that we support each other. So some of the things that I'd like to see in the cerebral palsy world going forward, just a few things off the top of my head. I'm just sitting here at my kitchen table. I have no notes or anything like that, but a few things that I would like to see. I'd like to see a focus on adults with cerebral palsy, adults that are out there living their lives, living their best lives for themselves and for their families, and putting the spotlight on those of us with cerebral palsy that are older, that have lived successful lives. I often believe, and this is my experience, is when I talk to people, they're amazed that there are adults with cerebral palsy out there in the world. I say it all the time. Kids with cerebral palsy grow up to be adults with cerebral palsy. It's stunning. The other thing that I would like to see is I would like to see more inclusion in the world when it comes to cerebral palsy awareness. Looking at the workforce participation rate for people with disabilities, it's about 19.1%, according to the U.S. labor market statistics that I see. That's ridiculously low, and we need to work on that. When I speak about inclusion, I'm not asking for a lowering of a standard to make things easy. I think all we're asking for is the opportunity to hit the same standard as everybody else. That's what inclusion is. And if we can bring more people with a disability into the workforce, you're going to gain an employee who's loyal, hardworking, but more importantly, will bring a different viewpoint maybe a different perspective, a different way of looking at things into your workforce, which I think is good. I believe that great ideas come from everywhere, and the more people that can come in to your workforce that have that different view are good. I would like to see a greater enforcement of the ADA laws in the United States. I know that the ADA law is the law of the land, but the issue that I have is so that's just the starting point, right? That's the bare minimum. And companies, organizations, businesses oftentimes aren't even in ADA compliant. You know, if you go into a business or a restaurant or whatever it might be, can somebody with a wheelchair, a power chair, even get through the front door? Can they get in? You know, can they navigate the parking lot? Can they get into your front door? Can they use the restroom on the first floor? Is there a restroom on the first floor? Things like that. Looking at counter height. So those are some of the things that I'd like to see. The other thing that is near and dear to my heart is the military. I would love to see more people being allowed to serve in the military with a disability. For example, cerebral palsy. If you know my story, I served in the Navy for over 20 years with cerebral palsy. I had to hide that fact. And nobody should ever have to do that. And I, because of my book, Someone Like Me, I get emails almost every day from people all around the country, all around the world, who want to do what I did. But the Navy's not even letting them in the front door to see if they're eligible for enlistment. And that's a mistake. Because, again, every case of cerebral palsy is unique to that individual. So maybe that person has a mild case of CP like myself, but they're able to stand the watch. They're able to serve on board ships. They're able to do everything that I was able to do on board aircraft carriers, battleships, and destroyers. You know, you got to get past that contempt prior to investigation. Don't lower your standards, military. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is keep an open mind, knowing that every case of cerebral palsy is unique to that individual, and give that young man or that young woman the opportunity at least to try and hit your standard. And if they can hit the standard, they should be allowed to serve no problem. The military tells me that they handle this on a case-by-case basis. Well, I'd love to see the numbers of those people, those recruits that have been allowed in to the military with cerebral palsy. I've yet to see those numbers. Based on the emails that I get, those numbers, they're zero. So I'd like to see some improvement on that. Again, I think everybody's got a role to play, and people just want the opportunity to try. So those are just some thoughts, on Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. Some things that I'd like to see have a spotlight shown on. But what do you think? I'm grateful that I have the cerebral palsy that I have. It's part of my life. It's a big part of my character, and I'm proud to educate people and represent cerebral palsy in my small way. But I wish you all the best. Let's support one another. And if you have any questions, comments, feel free to put them below. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you're looking for a motivational speaker, if you're a company that brings in speakers, let's talk. I'd love to come in and share my story with you, or we could do a Zoom chat, which I've done a lot lately. Great companies like Applied Materials, USAA, Rockwell Automation, great companies like that. Let's add your company to the list, and you can reach out to me on my website, johnwquinn.com. I'll put a link below. But again, happy Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, everybody. Let's look after one another and stay strong. All the best. Bye-bye.